published, 12/12 EDT, the 17th of May 2018, updated, 16/38 EDT, the 17th of May 2018. The MOT is being updated this Sunday, but half of motorists are confused about the changes. There will be new checks on emissions systems for diesel vehicles with particulate filters, brake discs and reversing lights. It will also see the inclusion of 3 new defect categories: dangerous, major and minor. The 2 most serious, dangerous and major, will result in a car automatically failing an MO, and the latter, minor, refers to faults that need to be rectified as soon as possible. The RAC has now warned that the confusion could lead to thousands of vehicles being driven while having defects that desperately need to be fixed. MO change is due. The annual roadworthiness test will become more difficult from Sunday, but many drivers are unaware that the MO includes new checks of 1,866 car owners surveyed by the breakdown provider. Many admitted to being befuddled by the new fault categories. It was the minor defect type that caused the most confusion, with 49% wrongly assuming it would lead to an MO fail when it actually signified a pass with defects that need to be remedied as soon as possible. More worryingly, 74% of motorists believe drivers would continue to use a vehicle listed with an MO minor fault without having the issue fixed, regarding it as an advisory rather than something that needs to be remedied at the earliest convenience. The research found more flaws in the new 3-tier fault categories. Some 5% thought a vehicle found to have a dangerous fault would pass the test, and 6% believed the same of a major fault. However, both fault types would in fact result in an automatic fail and require immediate repairs before the car can be retested. If the issue is deemed dangerous, the vehicle can't even be driven away and needs to be fixed before a wheel is turned. Stricter rules for diesel car emissions: a vehicle will get a major fault if the MO tester can see smoke of any color coming from the exhaust, finds evidence that the DPF has been tampered with. Other new checks include: if tires are obviously underinflated, if the brake fluid has been contaminated for fluid leaks posing an environmental risk, brake pad warning lights, and if brake pads or discs are missing, reversing lights on vehicles first used. From the 1st of September 2009, headlight washers on vehicles first used from the 1st of September 2009, if they have them, daytime running lights on vehicles first used from the 1st of March 2018. Most of these vehicles will have their first MO in 2021 when they're 3 years old. Source: DVSA. And the study highlighted that motorists' general understanding on MO tests is blurred, even when it comes to elements that have been in place for decades. For instance, 13% of the panel thought an advisory would result in a fail, even though MO advisories used to highlight problems that will need to be repaired in the future have been used for years. For some, the MO changes are a surprise altogether. Of the drivers questioned, 56% didn't even know that the test was being adapted on Sunday, and a third of those who claimed they knew changes were afoot didn't actually know they were being introduced this weekend. The RAC said it backed the changes, but voiced concerns that there could be some inconsistency in the way they are interpreted and applied around the country. And if their fears were to be recognized, the overall MO failure rate may be affected, which could lead to significantly more unroadworthy vehicles on our streets. 3 in 5, 58%, of respondents said the confusion could result in more cars being past fit for use on the road that would have failed the old test and are therefore not as safe. RAC spokesman Simon Williams said, "It is important everyone quickly gets to grips with the changes to the MO, and that test centers and garages do a good job of explaining the new fault categories so motorists understand correctly the severity of faults with their vehicles. Changes to the MO that make vehicles using our roads safer are undoubtedly a positive step, so we hope that testers everywhere interpret and apply the new rules fairly and consistently. The last thing we want to see is a lowering of MO standards and an increase in the number of unroadworthy vehicles on our roads. The new MO rules will also see all cars older than 40 years be exempt from the test. Quick Fit has warned that this could result in almost 117,000 classic cars that are currently declared as SON and without a valid MO being used on the road without being checked. Any smoke coming from the exhaust of a diesel car with a particulate filter fitted with automatically fail and MO from Sunday. One of the key changes to the MO test from Sunday are the stricter requirements for emissions from diesel cars with a diesel particulate filter (DPF), which captures and stores exhaust soot. Vehicles will get a major fault if the MO tester can see any smoke of any color coming from the exhaust, or finds evidence that the DPF has been tampered with. Half of motorists questioned, 48%, by the RAC said they currently own, or run, a diesel car, and of those 53% said their car had a DPF. However, more than a third, 37%, didn't know whether their vehicle had one or not. For those who don't know, they could be stung with a fairly hefty bill if their car has one that isn't operating correctly. Replacements DPFs often cost in excess of £1,000. Which is up to 4 times what half of diesel drivers surveyed thought they were valued at. There is rightly a lot of attention at the moment on harmful to health nitrogen dioxide emissions from diesel vehicles, so stricter rules should help to make sure vehicles aren't emitting more than they should be, Williams added. Those unlucky enough to discover their vehicle has a faulty or tampered with diesel particulate filter will, unfortunately for them, be burning a big hole in their pocket due to the very high cost of replacement. A diesel particulate filter is a device that captures and stores harmful exhaust particulate matter to stop it from being released into the air we breathe. But because they only have a finite capacity, the trapped emissions periodically have to be emptied or burned off to regenerate the DPF. In real-life driving terms, that means making sure a diesel car gets a prolonged motorway speed run regularly. This regeneration process removes the excess emissions soot clogging up the filter, reducing the harmful exhaust emission, and helps to prevent the telltale black smoke you used to see from diesel vehicles, particularly when accelerating hard. Euro 5 exhaust emissions legislation introduced in 2009 to help lower car CO2 emissions effectively made DPFs mandatory. And since then, around 1 in 2 new cars a year are diesels with them fitted. There are 2 methods of maintaining a DPF, passive and active. Passive regeneration occurs when the car is running at motorway speeds for half an hour or longer to push the exhaust temperature higher so it can start the process of burning off the excess clogged soot. Active regeneration means extra fuel is injected automatically, as part of the vehicle's ECU, when a filter reaches a predetermined limit, normally about 45%, to raise the temperature of the exhaust and burn off the stored soot.